I'd like to welcome you here to this significant briefing on freedoms in North Korea, the power of freedom in addressing the divided Korean family. I'm Michael Marshall, I'm the moderator. I'm Editor Emeritus of United Press International and a Senior Research Advisor at the Global Peace Foundation. I think we all realize that the challenge of North Korea has become a matter of growing public awareness. North Korea is continually in the news, both for its nuclear tests and missile launches, and its human rights abuses. Just last week, we saw that the Treasury Department sanctioned named individuals, including Kim Jong-un, and a number of organizations connected with public security in North Korea for their human rights abuses. So this is obviously an issue of increasing concern. It's also brought a greater public awareness and an awareness of the role of civil society in bringing about change in North Korea and promoting an understanding of the situation there, putting forward ideas of what can be done to bring change. Human rights in particular, since the UN Commission on Human Rights in North Korea has become a more and more central focus. The separation in policy thinking and policy making between security on the one hand and human rights on the other, which was pretty rigid 10-15 years ago, has now dissolved. And policymakers see the two issues as going hand in hand. They are both features of the North Korean regime and must be dealt with in tandem. Defectors are going to play a very large role in the further spread of information about the nature of the regime in North Korea, and we're very fortunate to have two of those defectors here today who will be our speakers. I'd like to thank our congressional co-hosts today for enabling us to have this briefing. Congressman Matt Salmon, who's a congressman for the Arizona 5th District, and also chairman of the Asia and Pacific Subcommittee of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and Charles Rangel, 30th District, New York, who I hope will be dropping by shortly. Congressman Salmon is pretty unique among, probably totally unique among congressmen. He's a fluent speaker of Mandarin, and consequently, he brings a level of understanding to Asian affairs that is, I think, unrivaled on Capitol Hill. He's going to be retiring at the end of the year, and while that may be a source of happiness to your family, Congressman, it will be a loss to the understanding of Asian affairs here on Capitol Hill. So you will be missed. Very specifically in relation to one of the main topics today, he is the sponsor of the DPRK Act, that's Distribution and Promotion of Rights and Knowledge Act, which is designed to increase the technological sophistication and the depth of content of information that is channeled into North Korea. So with that said, let me invite Congressman Salmon to give us some welcome remarks. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Global Peace Foundation and the U.S. Korea Institute at SAIS for organizing this event, as well as my colleague, Mr. Rangel, who I'm sure will be here momentarily. As you know, Mr. Rangel served the country valiantly in the Korean War, earning a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for his service. I'd especially like to thank our panel, including defectors from North Korea, for taking the time to share their stories with us. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Kang, who is here with us today, wrote the famous book, The Aquariums of Pyongyang, which was one of the first and most influential first-hand accounts of what life is really like inside North Korea. Mr. Kang, thank you for your courage and helping to inform U.S. policymakers, including President Bush, on the horrible situation that the people of North Korea face. As many of you know, as chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Asia and the Pacific, I've worked very closely on the issue of human rights in North Korea. Well, I've never, and hopefully will never know conditions like those experienced by our panelists today. Fighting for human rights across the globe is some of the most important foreign policy concerns that we have to face here in these United States. Unfortunately, the citizens of North Korea don't understand the very concept of human rights. Take a moment to let that sink in. Something so fundamental that we Americans take for granted is beyond the scope of understanding for so many North Koreans. That's why it's so important for those who had the courage to defect to tell their stories. Those that are still in North Korea can find some hope in the courage that you've expressed, so that they might know, and everybody might know, the truth in the outside world. There's such a block of information coming out of North Korea that truth-sayers like yourself are just so incredibly important, and nothing in the world ever changes without brave souls stepping forward, doing their honor-bound duty to stand for the family of human beings. This is something that is so near and dear to my heart, and as was mentioned, I introduced legislation that would help facilitate more information. We've heard a phrase, knowledge is power. Knowledge changes civilizations, and it's hard to make change without knowledge. And so I think one of the most fundamental things that we can do is provide unfettered truth to the people of North Korea, so that they can learn for themselves that there are better ways and better opportunities. The 2008 North Korean Human Rights Act provided for radio broadcasting into North Korea, and it's had some success. My legislation, the Distribution of Rights and Knowledge Act, would upgrade the information flow for North Korea, and it's time to update that act. It would provide for research and development of new ways to get information into North Korea, including distribution of devices, not solely focused on radio alone, and sharing information most important to the people of North Korea, including the notion of human rights and rights technically afforded to its citizens from their constitution and international treaties and compacts North Korea is party to. Most of us cannot begin to comprehend the difficulties that the North Korean people face, and we must do our part to improve the situation. Empowering them with information is one of the best ways to accomplish this, and North Korean defectors are best prepared to share this and disseminate this information. Finally, I'm glad to see that our government finally recognized Kim Jong-un and others' gross violations of human rights abuses through targeted sanctions. This action is long overdue, but better late than never, right? Through briefings like this, we're slowly gaining momentum in this fight for the people of North Korea, and I really appreciate, again, your courage. A lot of times when people get out of terrible situations, they want to do everything they can to not even be close to that situation. God bless you for what you're doing. Not just the people of North Korea, but the whole world owes you a debt of great gratitude, because you're standing for the most fundamental right, God-given right that we as brothers and sisters across the globe have, and that is basic human rights. So thank you for what you're doing. If I had a medal to pin on your chest, I'd do it right now. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here.
Khan, who's a defector and a North Korean human rights activist. He's the author of the book, The Aquariums of Pyongyang, which I think for many of us was the first book written by someone who came out of North Korea, out of their prison system, to reveal the realities of life there. He's going to speak in Korean. He will be translated by Mr. Tong Kim here, who we are very honored to have with us, as he has served as a translator for, I think, 5 U.S. presidential delegations and 4 ROK presidential delegations in the course of his very distinguished career. Let me give the floor to Mr. Khan.
예, 오늘 미국 의회에서 공무원 자리 만들어주신 관계자분들께 감사드리고요. 또 이 시간을 통해서 최근에 이슈가 되고 있는 북한 문제가 어떻게 해결할 것인가, 이런 진지한 고민과 그리고 어떻게 행동할 것인가에 대해서 말씀을 드리겠습니다.
I would first like to thank those who prepared this important occasion for me to talk about the North Korean situation. And in conjunction with the recent or latest development regarding Korea, I will try to give my assessment of what's happening.
그러니까 우리는 지금까지 일어났던 전 세계 민주주의의 역사를 보게 되면 첫 단계가 외부의 정보가 유입돼서 스스로 이제 뭔가 변화하는 이제 어떤 그 의식화 이게 첫 단계이기 때문에 저도 이제 북한의 변화도 북한 주민들에게 얼마만큼 정보가 유입되는 것에 따라서 저는 북한 정권의 변화의 반응이 달라진다고 보고 있습니다.
As we see how change was brought about in Vietnam, I think I can apply the same kind of theory to the North Korean situation. If we are successful in infusing information into North Korea, so that North Korean population are aware of, informed of what's going on outside their world, I think this is the way to bring about change in North Korea. I think it is very important to concentrate our efforts on information programs.
네, 그래서 우리가 뭐 북한 정권에 대해서 군사적인 방법으로 제어하거나 뭐 이런 물리적인 방법을 쓰지 않는 외에는 저는 이제 정보 확산밖에 방법이 없다 그렇게 보고 있고요. 그래서 미국 국회나 또 우리 미국 국민들이 북한 내부 정보 확산에 대해서 많은 관심을 가져주시고 좀 도와주시면 너무나 감사하겠습니다.
Absent our strategic decision to get rid of North Korea militarily, physically, there is no other option than what we refer to as massive, effective, elaborate information program to awaken North Korean people to learn what's going on outside of the world. And I think this is the only possible approach we can think of safely, and we can carry that out. In this regard, I would hope U.S. Congress and the U.S. government also provide some support for this kind of efforts that we are deeply engaged in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is Miss Grace Joe. Her story, if you're familiar with it, is almost unimaginable for someone who has lived all their life in a Western society. She almost starved as a child. She experienced the death of two of her younger brothers. Her father was tortured and starved to death for the crime of trying to bring a bag of rice to his family. She and her mother and another sister went to China to try and find means to survive, to get food. Were caught on numerous occasions and sent back to Korea. She spent time in prison because of that.
Before I start my testimony, I want to ask several questions to everyone here this afternoon. I would like you to think about why do mothers have to abandon their loved children at home and cross the river to China and be sold like animals? Why do fathers have to face life in prison over a bag of rice? Why do children have to beg on the streets without any news of their parents? Why do people have to suffer in fear of unjust punishment every day? Why do people escape North Korea only to have to die in China? Lastly, how can we stop this constant problem? My mother, she carried me on her back, and with my sister Jin-hye crossed the Tumor River. We lived in China, learning the language and looking for work to survive, always in hiding. We were unsuccessful, so we were caught and forcefully returned to North Korea 4 times. Because I don't have much time, I can't speak of the abuse we faced in both the Chinese and North Korean detention centers. I cannot describe it in a short time. In total, we crossed the Tumor River total 5 times, and my my mother carries all the scars and injuries to her body with her. My sister Jinhye and I, as her remaining two daughters, could not forget our past. So we've committed to sharing about what happens in North Korea. Each time my mother made this decision to cross the river to find freedom, it wasn't easy because if she fails, she will die with her children. Finally, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the prayers and activism of individuals with a big heart for North Korea, many of whom are in this room today. So thank you very much.
Kim, who's a senior researcher at the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, SAIS. I need to give a recognition to SAIS, who together with the Global Peace Foundation is the co-host and co-sponsor of this event here, as well as this morning's forum at Johns Hopkins University. He's authored two studies. One is Cell Phones in North Korea. Has North Korea entered the telecommunications revolution? And the other, Time to Use Drones to Deliver USBs into North Korea. Before joining the U.S. Korea Institute, he was a senior reporter for VOA, Voice of America, their Korean service, where he covered the North Korean economy, illicit activities, and economic sanctions. Prior to that, from 2003 to 8, he was a broadcaster for Radio Free Asia's Korea service, and from 2001 to 2003, assistant director of the Atlantic Council's program on Korea in transition. So he has many different types of experience and research on the Korean Peninsula, both North and South, but particularly the situation of the North in regard to its economy, and also to the way in which technology is changing the society there. Please welcome Mr. Young-ho Kim. Thank you.
It is time for the U.S. to design an upgraded strategy to effectively win the hearts and minds of the North Korean people and educate them through the latest breakthroughs in media technologies. And cell phones are another potential method of facilitating the flow of information into North Korea. Given the fact that there are around 3 million legal, not illegal, but legal cell phone users, which means more than 10% of the population in North Korea, the use of cell phones to spread information has significant potential to succeed. TV is a natural next step of U.S. international broadcasting for the North Koreans who are increasingly exposed to foreign video materials. And imagine a TV scene where a defector reporter walks through the streets of New York and showing off the American lifestyle, everything from ordering a piece of New York-style pizza to buying a ticket for a Yankees game, or to using an ATM. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And of course, close cooperation with South Korea would certainly be necessary for such a project to succeed. Let me stop here and thank you very much for listening.
The National Unification Advisory Council of Korea, as I mentioned before, represented today is Mr. Steve Lee, and he would like to give a greeting and introduce a special guest. And then we'll have our reception. Dr. Lee.
Hi. I think I can hear myself louder than you can. My name is Steve Lee, and I'm a Secretary General of National Unification Advisory Council, Washington Chapter. He couldn't be here today, but it is an honor to deliver a welcoming message from Mr. William Hong, President of the National Unification Advisory Council, Washington Chapter. We welcome all North Korean defectors and appreciate contributions they are making every day. We believe you will also become the strong bridge between unified North and South Korea when it happens.
This Korean-American community is completely with you in Korea, the work you're doing there, the work you're doing here. Let's continue this. All of you staff people give a great report to the member that you're here representing, and make sure American support for Korean unification is critical. Everybody, we were at a think tank this morning, and we always talk about there's the nuclear problem, there's the human rights problem, there's this problem, that problem. We never get to unification. We need to start with unification, then we'll easily solve all those other problems. So tell your congressman that and get them on board. And any of these panelists, anybody in this room is very serious and willing to help work together. Let's do it together. We can make a difference, and we can finally solve this problem.
In Philadelphia for a similar speaking event. Anyway, excuse me. It couldn't be
Thank you.